All right, let's get into this. Let's start just big picture, favorite signings. First couple that come to mind for you. Why don't you kick us off?
One that I at first would have been on my list, and as I did this exercise, I like it more as I thought about it. And it's Von Bill signing with the Panthers.
Number one on my list.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is one we talked about it for briefly, kind of forgot about it for 4 or 5 days. And then as I did this exercise, I'm like, I really like that signing. I think the Panthers defense is going to be a great unit. And this guy is super versatile and smart, and it's going to shore up anything they want to do on that end. Really, really like the signing. So that I would say it's my number one, but the first one I wanted to talk about because I just really did like that one.
It was just the first one that came to mind for me. When I was looking back and looking at everything, it was the first one that came to mind.
That's funny.
I think that free agency is best used to fill holes, to find capable players at certain positions. And I think that tier of player is maybe no more important than it is at safety.
Yeah.
And the flexibility that he gives you, I think that I really did learn a lot from the way that the Bengals built their secondary 2 years ago. And the way that they constructed it, everything they got out of it. Obviously, Lou Anarumo is a huge piece of them being able to squeeze everything they can from a group of solid players playing on modest deals. But I think that general philosophy of we're going to bring in veterans, smart veterans that clear a certain bar but aren't superstars and don't get paid like it, and we're going to piece together our secondary from players like that. It was really instructive and informative to me. And he was such a key part of that I think dropping him into this group in Carolina, he kind of brings the whole room together, in my opinion.
You don't need to sign another ace. You don't need to break the bank to just get another guy in there. You need a guy that, if we're talking about aces and baseball and everything, you need another pitcher in the rotation. You need a reliever. You need the other guys that kind of make up your team. The glue, like you said, the
glue is a great way. It's a great way to frame it. It's great because he just, again, ties it together.
Yes, he does.
My other one is, I think, in a similar vein, I had Juan Thornhill going to the Browns. Same kind of idea, right? I mean, 3 for 21, $14 million guaranteed, really similar contracts. He's even younger than Von Bell is. Maybe not quite as versatile as Bell was for Cincinnati, but still gives you that just safety on the back end where it's just like, I have a solid player that I can plug in right here. And I know that he will be capable for the most part. And it's so much less than they paid even for John Johnson a couple years ago, which I think might be a lesson that both the Browns and other teams have learned at this position specifically. I mean, the only guy who really made a lot more than this general range at safety in this free agent class was Jesse Bates. Was really it. Other than him, it's a lot of these sorts of contracts. And I think these sorts of contracts are very palatable at this position specifically. And Thornhill is another one of those moves for me.
Yeah, I really like that one too. I had Obo Okronkwo with the Browns as one of mine, not just because he's one of my guys, but it's a move that really made sense for where they're at, the aisle they shopped in for that type of player. You can outplay the contract, which is I always think has to be an aspect when you look at these guys.
Yeah.
Even if he lives up to the contract, making just over $6 million a year, that's not that crazy. If he gets you 8-10 sacks this year, holy crap, that like $1 million per sack, if not more, is a fantastic deal no matter how you shake it.
All right, who's your next one?
David Onyemata with the Falcons. I thought this was just a fantastic tone setter for this defense. I thought it was a very fair deal. Of course, I wanted him to maybe go with a contender. I've said that before, but I thought as far as fit, as far as what they need, as far as type of player, he's a mauler, he's an ass kicker. I think he's going to do great work with Grady Jarrett, and they kind of have a great stylistic fit. I really like this one. I really like the player. He's a little older, Falcons are kind of in this, like they're kind of coming out of their rebuild right now. So, but I think as far as, okay, well, if we're coming out of a rebuild with so many new casts of characters on our defense, let's get a guy that sets the tone for whoever else we bring in and can play a lot of valuable snaps for us. Really like this one. I thought it was a fair deal for what the type of player is. He's never going to really juice up the box score, but he does a lot in the pass game, or does enough in the pass game and enough against the run. He's versatile. Like this fit, and I like the signing, and I thought it was a very fair deal for what he got.
I think it's pretty rich, man.
I think he's a good player.
He's 30 years old.
Yeah.
He's getting money like right below that DJ Reader tier.
You know what you're getting with him, but I think for where the Falcons are, they need guys like this. He's a B+ player. They had D's and D- on that defense.
Yeah.
So I think that's where maybe I'm coming from. I agree with the contract. It is a little rich. They can get out after 2 years, but I think for what they are and what they needed, this made a lot of sense to me. But I agree. It is a little rich, But I do think he is a good, tangibly good player that plays a lot of snaps for you as well, which I think is another aspect of these signings that you have to look at. Can I throw another one in here that's not a signing, but just a move, and I really liked it? And this is playing to the crowd here, is the DJ Moore trade. Getting thrown in with the Bears. Like, honestly, one of my favorite moves, and cherries on top to any move. This not just the trade was great, but for the Bears, but I think the DJ Moore kind of throw in was just an inspired move. I really do. I think the stylistic fit's going to be fantastic for Chicago and Justin Fields.
We talked about it a lot when the move happened. I just think that being able to set yourself up for the future with all of the assets that you created and the flexibility that you have moving forward, while also giving yourself the best way to gain information about your quarterback in the short term, I think is a really smart way to think about that move. And even if you had that other 2025 first, I get wanting to come away with both of those, but I still think that trying to balance present and future in the way that they did with the haul that they got was a really smart way to approach it. My next one's here. A lot of guys going back to their teams, which aren't free agent signings, but I had a lot of these that's just like, okay, the first Caleb McGarry going back to Atlanta. Okay.
Fantastic.
Over the next 2 years, Caleb McGarry will average a $9 million cap hit over the next 2 seasons. He only got $15 million guaranteed. The cash flow and the guarantees that he got this year aren't that much different than what George Fant got 3 years ago from the Jets. And you know what he is.
Yep.
You know how he fits into what you're doing. So I get talking yourself into that. And you can list off a half dozen more. Jordan Poyer going back to the Bills.
Yep.
James Bradbury going back to the Eagles. Jamel Dean going back to the Bucks. I thought that Jake Brendel going back to the 49ers is just like, oh, we know what he is. This is a reasonable amount of money.
Yes.
We don't have to.
Great year last year.
It's just a stabilizing thing where it's like, this is one less thing we have to worry about as we think about all the other moving parts on our offense. Jermaine Pratt going back to the Bengals. Jonathan Jones going back to the Patriots. Bradley Bozeman going back to the
that's what I was about
Panthers. My last one is TJ Edwards to the Bears.
Okay.
I think it's a really good signing. And it's kind of offset
how the linebacker market broke out. Yeah, it's a lot more fair than I originally thought it would be.
$6 million a year. He was a really good player for the Eagles last year. I think that he's much better than what they had, especially post Roquan trade last year. I mean, obviously they spent a lot on Edmonds, but I think that we forget because of the Edmonds signing that the Edwards deal was considered a pretty good bargain when they signed it on the first day of free agency.
And I like the Nate Davis signing for the Bears. It's funny. Those kind of like singles and doubles they did were kind of like the better moves. Like I like that one. And Deontay Foreman too, but I was going to talk about him later. I actually like that one as well because as far as a fit.